Perfect. We'll call the January 11th MWPA Ops Committee meeting to order at 10:06. Martina, can you do a roll call?
Absolutely. And I just wanted to acknowledge our member agencies joining us online today. It looks like we have Jim Fox for Inverness, Abe Roman for San Rafael, Chris Gove for Muir Beach, Dan Mahoney for Sleepy Hollow, Isaac Taylor for Bolinas, Heather Abrams for Fairfax. And did I miss anybody online? I do not believe.
David Donnery from San Anselmo.
David Donnery for San Anselmo. Apologies, sir. And so proceeding with those in the room, do we have Todd Cusimano for Mill Valley? We do not have Jan Schwartz for Larkspur this morning. Do we have Mark Pomey for Kentfield?
Mark Pomey, Kentfield.
We have Eric Drakeson for Marinwood.
Here.
Bill Tyler is here. He's just stepped out for a moment, so I would like the record to reflect that Chief Tyler is present today. Do we have Chris Tubbs for Southern Marin?
Here.
Do we have Adam Wolf for Corte Madera? Okay, so it looks like Adam is not here today. We have Heather online. Do we have Krista Johnson for the Town of Ross?
You have Krista Johnson from Town of Ross. Good morning.
Good morning. Do we have Chief Weber for the County of Marin?
Good morning here.
And Chair Perry.
Perry, first instance be chair. Okay, moving on to item number 3, agenda adjustments. Any requests for adjustments to the agenda? Moving on to 4 public comments. This opportunity for members of the public to comment on items not on the agenda. Martina, are there any members of the public wishing to speak?
Seeing as we do not have members of the public here in the room, if there's anyone online who would like to speak on the current agenda item, which would be items not currently on the agenda, please raise your hand in the reactions. And for those of you joining us by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. And sir, there are no hands for comment.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, planning and program managers report from, I believe, the award-winning Ann Krelock.
Excuse me, Martina?
Yes.
This is Dan Mahoney. I just wanted to make it clear that my location is not on the agenda. I'm attending the meeting from my residence due to a contagious illness, and there's nobody under the age or over the age of 18 in the room.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So we'll proceed with the planning and program manager's report here. What Chief Perry was referring to was Marin County Parks presented me with an award of Friends of the Parks, which was very kind. So contracting for core veg projects. This is something that we've been working on for quite a while, and really at the request of our member agencies to make sure that we are streamlining contracting wherever possible for core vegetation management projects. And this is an optional process that we've created and we're in the process of creating for supporting core vegetation management projects. You don't have to use this process if it doesn't work for you. Happy to hear any input if you have ideas to make it work for you better. So in September last fall, we circulated a request for qualifications for vegetation management services. This was not an RFP for a specific project. It was just to gather contractors who'd be interested in working with us long-term on a multitude of potential projects. We closed that RFQ in October. And in November and December, we internally and also we reached out to several member agency staff, scored those submittals, and are now working on reaching out to those contractors to have them sign a master services agreement. We actually used Novato's template to help us develop this process because Novato already has master services agreements with various contractors, as does San Rafael. So this process would include larger master services agreements for things like hand crew work, tree work, various tasks that could be incorporated into our core projects. And then under each of those master services agreements, which we anticipate going to the MWPA board in January on the 18th, we would prepare task orders for individual projects or types of services under those MSAs to support core projects. We are rolling this out really first probably to support the Greater Novato Shaded Fuel Break and Greater Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break. And then we'll get a sense for how much staff time and effort it takes. We'd also like to support some of the other projects out there that I know some of the member agencies are looking for contracting support. So we're hoping to roll this out kind of in stages to get our feet under us and get our process smooth and efficient for all of you to take part in. Generally, these will be the most useful for the larger projects, task orders over 200,000. We do have a list of qualified consultants or contractors that can be used for projects under 200,000. Task orders over 200,000 would need to go to the MWPA board for approval, but it's a pretty efficient process. Under 200K, Mark can sign, and it's a very quick process to bring folks on board to do this work. I would note, though, that once we have MWPA named in the contract for these types of projects, we'll have, now that we have veg management specialists on staff, 3 of them, in fact, they will be more involved in just kind of QA/QCing projects, going out in the field, checking with, crew leaders and making sure everything's looking good and we're not walking away from any potential, erosion control issues, et cetera. So we're in the midst of finalizing this list of contractors that you see here. This list should be finalized by the end of the day today. And so we're very excited to get folks on board. Yeah, please.
If I may add one thing, this is primarily focused for core projects, but for if any of the member agencies have a larger local project, and if your procurement policies allow you to piggyback on a competitively bid process, this was a competitively bidded process, so we're happy to share the contracts with you all so that you can tap into that resource as well.
Great, thanks, Mark. I also wanted to get a couple of dates and times on your calendar here. January 19th is going to be a busy day. We've got a webinar in the morning, and then in the next slide, I'll tell you about a field trip in the afternoon. This webinar, Mark and I are going to be participating. Some of our consultants are going to be participating, Sonoma Technology, Panorama, and Sequoia. Also, we've got the County Planning Department, the CDA, participating as well. And the focus of this webinar is it's a collaboration with Cal Poly. So Cal Poly has some CAL FIRE funding to help with getting the word out on this type of work throughout the state. So they work with a variety of different entities to just kind of spread the word about how projects are actually being planned and implemented and what are the challenges that people are running into. So they reached out to us to work on a webinar and also a site visit later on in the spring. And we're going to be focusing on coastal marin. Coastal marin is really challenging to do work in. We've got not only environmental compliance through CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, but also Coastal Act compliance to think through. So we've got a lot of regulatory process, a lot of very engaged citizens, a lot of sensitive natural resources to think about. And so it's a particularly challenging area to do work, as you know. And there's a lot of interest around the state about the issues surrounding the coastal areas. And so we actually reached out to the Coastal Commission to take part in this webinar. They were not available, but they are planning their own webinar through Cal Poly on this topic. So we'll be hearing from them just in a different setting. Registration so far has been really good. I think we have 65 or 70 participants so far. It'll be interesting to see who shows up. And then we'll have a field trip associated with this with Cal Poly as well. So we're looking forward to that. Also on the 19th, we're hosting a field trip along with San Rafael Fire, Ross Valley Fire, Town of San Anselmo, Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership, and others. And we'd really like to highlight the first few acres of the San Rafael San Anselmo Fuel Reduction Zone project that will be implemented. So this project is that large eucalyptus area between San Rafael and San Anselmo, includes some Marin County parks and open space lands, includes some towns of San Anselmo lands, the Mount Town Cemetery, a lot of eucalyptus trees. This is 10,000, 15,000 stems of small diameter eucalyptus trees that we're potentially removing. Larger trees would remain. And to get our feet wet and really start the process of implementing this project, we are tackling a 10-acre area first. And so we'd like to bring residents, neighbors, partners, any interested person out to this site to check it out, ask questions, see what the density of trees looks like and all the debris associated with eucalyptus trees. So in terms of logistics, January 19th, 2 to 4 p.m., meet at the end of 5th Street, and you can either walk into the tour location or take a shuttle. We'll have a couple of shuttles to move people into the project area. So we're excited about this. We love opportunities to bring people out to project sites and really ask questions. And that's it. Oh, that's it for me. And I've got Mark here to provide an update on insurance-related activities.
Excuse me. Thank you. Just a quick question as somebody newer to the area. Is that end of 5th Street? Is that where you get there by going behind the United Market in San Anselmo, and there's an old cemetery up there, and that's where Cedars has I think a 25-acre ranch there. Is that the part of town?
Yeah, the best way for you to do would go down H Lane and hit Forbes, or not Forbes, hit 5th and go that way. So go down to Miracle Mile, veer left at the Y going down 4th Street, next light, turn left, then turn right, turn left on 5th Street.
But that's that old kind of cemetery that is kind of dilapidated looking now.
Unfortunately.
Mount
Yeah.
Town.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Correct.
All right, so at the last meeting, it was requested that we discuss some of the activities that we have been doing through staff and through some of the board members with the insurance industry. And we do feel it's very much in line with the strategy developed by the Ops Committee, where one of the bullet points was to help maintain insurance for our homeowners here in Marin. And in talking to residents, I feel that people are more concerned about losing their insurance than they are about their homes being destroyed by wildfire. And I don't know if that's an inaccurate perception for our residents to have. I think if for some residents, it is more likely that their insurance gets canceled or non-renewed than their home gets destroyed by wildfire. And so I think it is a legitimate concern. And we do feel the activities were completely in line with the strategy developed by Ops. Some of the things that we've been doing in the background and also very visibly is we've been asked to present to the Wildfire Prevention Committee of the Assembly, and we've also been asked to present to the Committee on Insurance for the Assembly. And basically what we've been doing is we've been talking about the approach to MWPA and its member agencies takes towards wildfire mitigation, home evaluations, grant programs, chipper days, so on and so forth. We've just been telling the MWPA story. We also were approached by a consulting firm that is in a project in Paradise. And now I should stipulate that this consulting firm is not asking for any money from the MWPA. They're simply asking for our partnership, because what they're working with Milliman, which is an actuarial. They're working with Munich RE. They're working with other entities to show that the type of work that we are doing, whether it's shaded fuel breaks, wildfire mitigation, working hard towards getting our homes towards the wildfire prepared home standards that by the IBHS, or Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, that actually does make a demonstrable difference to annual average losses for insurance companies. If you're going to want insurance companies to stay in California, you have to speak their language, annual average losses. And one community is not enough for them to feel like the state of California is doing enough. They need many more communities getting on board. They need hundreds of thousands of homes in order for them to feel like they've had their bang for their buck. And it's not just the insurance companies that are backing out. They're being forced to back out because of reinsurance. and the amount of profits the reinsurance industry has lost. And so our efforts have been towards how do we convince the insurance companies that they have a good investment in California. Part of the concern also is Prop 103, which is great for the residents. It's actually created the lowest insurance rates based on size of homes in the nation for California. And you would think that would be counterintuitive given the amount of risk that we have in California between earthquakes, wildfire, floods, everything else like that. And that's really what's helped create an unsustainable environment for insurance companies. You know, State Farms, Farmer, Allstate have all said that they're not going to write new policies. They're continuing existing policies. You may have seen in the news a week or two ago that the California Department of Insurance authorized a 20% increase for State Farm for ongoing. And as a State Farm customer, I actually feel this may be an unpopular opinion, but I feel lucky that it's only 20%. The estimates for a lot of the insurance companies are that they need a 30 to 40% increase of their rates in order to sustain insurance in California. So the vast majority of the work the MWPA has been doing behind the scenes or at public meetings is to help share the story of what we're doing, share the modeling that we're doing, whether it's on parcel modeling or within the shaded fuel break modeling, to show that we actually are decreasing the risk of our homes, and then encouraging other communities to come on board so that we could have more of a footprint in California that's taken an approach like ours, because that's the only way we're going to be able to keep the California insurance industry alive, is by having a big enough footprint of homes or communities that are doing what we are doing. And then one of the considerations is a pooled insurance. So, you know, very similar to the Bay Cities Joint Powers Insurance Authority, which is a pooled insurance for municipalities. There is some consideration creating a pooled insurance for communities. It would require legislative change and it would require financial backing. So right now, it's just all we are trying to do is help be involved in the conversation, because we would like to be part of the solution rather than have a solution forced upon us. And what we're hearing now is that the reinsurance industry is more interested in paying for the second large disaster within a year. It's that first disaster that they don't want to provide the backing to the insurance industry. So if we were to take 2018 as an example, with the Camp Fire and the Woolsey fire occurring simultaneously, the reinsurance industry is saying, okay, we'll cover the Woolsey, but we're not covering the Camp. And so they're calling that a missing middle. And so we need to find a way to provide reinsurance for the insurance industry for that missing middle. And there's several different ways. There's actually private investors now that are looking at the possibility of providing that missing middle. So there's no short-term solution to the insurance challenge in California right now. We're just trying to stay engaged with sharing what our story is and have some type of influence in what direction we're going. So again, we don't have a solution shoved down our throats. We want to be part of the creation of that solution. And no core money has been spent towards this. Has been either staff time or Jean Bonander has been helping us with this. The reason why we reached out to Jean was that she was one of the primary drivers for the creation of the Bay Cities Joint Powers Insurance Authority. So she has a tremendous background in this area. And we've also been integrating, thanks to Chief Tyler's connection with United policyholders at that level. We've met with Milliman. Milliman's very, very interested in what we're doing here in Marin. And so we feel if we get those type of voices behind us, we can get other communities taking the same approach that we're taking. And Paradise gets to, they have the opportunity to start from ground zero and build a fire adapted community. Then we feel that we can start making a sustainable environment for insurance. So I'm open to any questions.
Yeah, Mark, I think, as you know, the Western Chiefs, primarily through Chiefs Freebolt and Winokur, have been in this space for a number of years, working with the risk modelers, IBHS, all of the parties, and trying to, as you say, get a resolution to this. And I've been working on, what are the so-called mitigations that matter, and the challenge of how do we get the insurance industry to see the work like what we're doing in Marin County. And Marin County is clearly ahead of the curve of all the counties in the state of California. how do we sort of get that to resonate in that dollar lane, which is what the insurance industry is looking at, so that when our homeowners and our agencies are investing in these risk reduction strategies, that they can be then validated either through in the reduction of insurance cancellations or in the reduction of premium escalations?
Great question. I've been side by side with Chiefs Freevault and Winokur. At one of the presentations to the assembly that we gave, I was sitting right next to Chief Winokur, and we're very fortunate that Chief Winokur looks at Marin County and the MWPA and its member agencies as, if nobody can make this work, or if the MWPA can't make this work, then nobody can. And so he leans towards us and shares a lot of his information, a lot of his support, a lot. And a lot of, he's the one that's been really working with Milliman, and the actuarial, Milliman has actually run the modeling and has come up with the thresholds of how much of your community needs to be protected by shaded fuel breaks, what penetration do you need of your homes that meet the wildfire prepared home designation. They're also looking at really closely at fire pathways, so for areas that can't put, as Winokur likes to call it, a moat around their entire community. For communities that need to be more strategic and focus where they put their shaded fuel breaks, it's the fire pathways. That is where the fire wants to burn with its most intensity and greatest rates of spread. You can focus your work where the fire pathways are. When we're integrating fire pathways into our work as well, with the research with Milliman, what they were able to show was that if you have 70% penetration of wildfire prepared home designation, in the WUI boundary, not throughout the entire community, and you have a shaded fuel break that's appropriate in size depending on the terrain, the fuels, the insurance industry will realize about an 80% decrease in annual average losses. And so those are the types of numbers that we feel are going to resonate with the insurance industry.
So to your point, it seems like a little bit of a chicken and an egg issue for us, because if they need greater saturation across the state, again, knowing that, Marin is in a unique position, and we have many counties throughout the state that are doing little to nothing in some cases, how do you see that pathway moving forward? And is there a role that we can play beyond what we're doing today?
And that's where our outreach as the MWPA and sharing our story, I think, is important. We have been fairly aggressive at either accepting invitations to speak at different conferences or different working groups, or requesting to speak. So Ann and I will be presenting at the IAFC WUI conference in March. Telling the story. We were at a conference you invited us to. So we are continuing our outreach. While it may not seem important that we spend our executive officers' time to share the story for our Marin residents, but if you think about helping to increase the penetration of this type of work through the state, which would turn around into increased insurance opportunities in Marin, we do see that as a benefit. And we have another community that Winokur has been working with down in Southern California that is a pre-planned community that's using all of these tactics that we're using. So we're starting to get more communities that are becoming fire adapted. And the last thing I'll add as far as helping to tell our story is what you guys approved with the last work plan is our efforts with Willow Labs to take our defensible space evaluations, take that data, run it through the modeling that Willow Labs has created, that we are well through the process of having it peer reviewed, and positively peer reviewed, by the way. And with two weather scenarios, the north winds weather scenario, and then the offshore sea breeze, or the onshore sea breeze, the turnaround day weather scenario. With both those scenarios, we're actually able to model the risk for each of our homes based on our evaluation. We're also able to aggregate that. We've also reached out to the University of Colorado with Dr. Hussam Mahmood, who has created probably the first and most accurate fire propagation model through homes. And he's averaging between 60 to 80% accuracy, and I'll use Lahaina as an example. We know what Lahaina did. They ran the Lahaina fire through their model, and it was about 68% accurate for fire spread. So we're combining University of Colorado with our Willow Labs research And then when we start adding, we have Willow Labs working on our shaded fuel break. We're trying to show that accurate computer modeling is showing this decrease in reduction. And we know the insurance industry is using their own modeling. They can't use it to set rates, but they are using it to decide whether or not they're going to insure a home. And so we're trying to get them to use the modeling in our residents' favor to show that it's actually making an impact. Any other questions?
Seeing no other questions, is that it for the planning and program manager's report? Thank you, guys. Moving on to item 6, actually, let's go out to the public for item number 5.
If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on item number 5, the planning and program manager's report, please raise your hand in the reactions, or for those joining us by phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself. And sir, there are no hands for comment.
Martina, you did that so well. We'll move to item 6 and go back out to the public again.
If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the current agenda item, item 6, the consent calendar, please raise your hand in the reactions. And for those joining by phone, press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. Sir, there are no hands.
Thank you for that. Any requests for edits from the previous minutes that were updated? And if not, can I get a motion?
So moved.
First by Chief Tubbs,
Second.
second by Christy Johnson. Thank you. Martina, can we pull the board, please?
Absolutely. Isaac Taylor for Bolinas.
Aye.
Todd Cusimano for Mill Valley.
Yes. Yes.
And that was a yes from Mill Valley. Abe Roman for City of San Rafael.
Yes.
Chief Weber for County of Marin.
Yes.
Jim Fox for Inverness.
Aye.
Chief Pomey for Kentfield.
Yes.
Eric Jergeson for Marinwood.
Yes.
Chris Go for Muir Beach.
Yes.
Chief Tyler for Novato.
Yes.
Dan Mahoney for Sleepy Hollow.
Yes.
Chris Tubbs for Southern Marin.
Yes.
Let's see, Town of Fairfax, Heather Abrams.
Yes.
Krista Johnson for the Town of Ross.
Yes.
Dave Donnery for the Town of San Anselmo.
Yes.
And Sheriff Perry for Stinson Beach.
Yes.
And that looks like a unanimous vote of all in attendance, sir.
Thank you, Martina. Moving on to item number 7A, overall strategic approach for fiscal year 24-25 work plan proposals. And the recommendation from staff is to review, discuss, and approve the updated draft strategic approach for the work plan.
Great, thank you. So here's my one slide for this item. Each year, the Operations Committee approves an overall strategic approach for the development of the next year's work plan. And for the last 2 years, the approach has remained the same. And this year, during our discussion at the December Operations Committee meeting, some additional ideas came up. And so I took our previous language and added some of those ideas here, or all of those ideas here. In this slide, the language that has a strikeout is existing language that we would delete, and the underlined language would be new. The top item would remain the same, continue the house out approach. Item number 2, that's a modification that I thought was relevant given various discussions that are happening right now at the ATC level around the grants program and how to make it more efficient and really make the biggest difference in our communities. So new language that that I'm proposing here, and feel free to jump in and modify as needed, would be continue to reduce wildfire risk to communities by providing resources directly to residents for home hardening and defensible space activities. Some of the ideas that are coming up around the grant program include direct assistance. So working directly with a contractor to go out and do a very specific number of items at residences. So gutter guards, vents, juniper, Italian cypress, things like that. So I thought this language might reflect a modified approach. Bullet number 3, that was really reflecting Chief Tyler's comments about the use of splats. So the revised language would be prioritize shaded fuel breaks directly adjacent to communities and explore the potential for strategically placed landscape area treatments or splats. Item number 4, expand the use of prescribed fire and public education and involvement around beneficial fire. That's also a reflection of Chief Tyler's comments in December. Item number 5, continue to prioritize evacuation planning and projects to improve safe and efficient evacuations. Chief Tyler and many others echoed this comment in December that we're doing a lot of work around evacuations. It's super important. The public is looking for it, so that should be reflected in our priorities here. And then the last 2 bullets would remain the same. That includes partnering with insurance companies and the IBHS to help avoid insurance cancellations and increasing public education, particularly to new audiences, which we are also doing. So any comments here, any questions, any language that's new that you're not comfortable with, feel free to express that now, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hi there, Ann. Thank you very much. Thank you for making the revisions that we had discussed at the last operations meeting. There's always new acronyms and there's new ways to say things that pop up. And today when Mark Brown was talking about pathways, and that's sort of a new term that needs to get socialized out. And I'm wondering if we should include pathways somewhere in and around the splats, which was also a new one, just to make that correlation and the connection between the two. So if there's a way to work in pathways, or maybe pathways is better than splats, I don't know. But
The 2 go together, right? Splats should go in pathways.
yeah. So I would somehow make that connection there. Another concept that I think needs to be included that we haven't for some time, and it is done by CAL FIRE, I think, rather effectively, and it may be under amplifying the public education messaging around ignition control. So actually controlling ignition so that we know especially when we have, red flag days or those turnaround days, low humidities, where everything is dried out and it's windy, that we do also some amplification around controlling ignitions. And so I would look at CAL FIRE's campaign that they do around, one less spark, I think is what it was called last year. I don't know if it's going to be there, but I think it's important to have continuity between that and share that more and more. So just a suggestion there. And then also in the educational realm, I like how it says, increase public education, particularly to new audiences. But I also think that this 0 to 5 foot specific messaging around that, knowing that the state also is trying to craft the right language around those new requirements that are going to be implemented soon, until people change until there's a paradigm shift on how they look at their properties and can start to see removing all of the ornamental vegetation. That if anywhere you drive, any resident area that you go, this is the way it's been done in the past. Large ornamental vegetation right up against people's houses, and it gets smaller as you get away from their home. People have to wrap their heads around removing that vegetation within 5 feet of their homes. It reminds me in Mill Valley, all of the good work, the tip of the spear work that was being done to try and get at even a 0 to 3 foot, that the public then came back and was very loud and vocal and upset around that. And we just have to get at that. That brings us, that 0 to 5 foot is one of the key components with the IBHS work. And so we have to be consistent, persistent, and clear about that change and shift that needs to occur. So I think that needs to happen here. Otherwise, where else is it going to happen?
Great, thank you for that. So what I'm hearing from you is adding language around pathways to bullet number 3. Adding language around controlling ignitions around bullet number, let me do the math here, 7. Public education, and then also emphasizing the 0 to 5 zone in the last bullet as well.
Yeah, and beyond just the education of controlling ignition sources, there may be different projects and programs that people have around that too. I don't know. I know that as we've been exercising our Fire Rangers program, a lot of it is around educating new audiences, which is the unhoused that are living and moving into these open space areas. And it's also controlling ignitions by removing and taking out unauthorized cooking and warming equipment. And so that is an education of a new audience, but it's also a physical action and activity. So you may see cities that want to somehow partner with removing those ignition sources within these critical areas. I don't know if they do or not, but I'd like to see something up there that allows people to think about how they would do that in their communities.
And thank you, Bill. The only thing I'd add on the insurance piece, which is the second to last bullet point, is maybe we talk about controlling costs also, not just cancellations, but we're also seeing cost control issues. So maybe just add that into the sentence.
That connects with the safer from wildfire regulation really well. And the fact that we know what they are, and there's 10 data points within the safer from wildfire regulations that if you meet any one of those 10 with the new rates that are supposed to be set and approved by CDI, you would get a discount. So we are inspecting both and documenting both positively and negatively for those items. So when people get their insurance or their DSpace report, they actually can go to their insurance agent with that report and go, look, I meet that, give me the discount. So hopefully that'll offset that 20 to 40% increase that we're likely to see from each company.
That's great, thank you.
Any other feedback for the staff? Christy?
I like the changes to the second bullet point about the resident programs. I think it helps to manage expectations about grants too. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
And is it the intention of the staff for us to approve this today, or do you want to go back with some of the notes that you have?
This is an action item for today. So we could choose, if you're comfortable, as far as I know, unless somebody tells me otherwise, we could choose to go ahead and vote to approve the modified strategic approach with the additional language suggested by Chief Tyler and Chief Weber. Or you could choose to have me make modifications and then see it again next month. I think one advantage to approving the language today is that then I can send it to the advisory technical committee, and that can be reflected in their proposals that they're entering into the work plan portal, which is now open and ready to use.
I would support moving this along so it doesn't come back to us.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of head nods. So I'll
Okay.
make the motion that we accept the strategic approach objectives that you've made changes to with the proposed changes that Chief Tyler and Chief Weber brought up.
And I'll second that, Cusimano.
We have a first from Chief Weber, second from Todd Cusimano. Can we do a roll call?
I think we have to go out to public comment, right?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. That sounds like a new chair. Sounds like a new chair thing to say. Let's go to
Second.
public comment.
Seeing as there are no members of the public in the room, if there's anybody online who would like to speak on the agenda item, the overall strategic approach for 24-25 work plan proposals, please raise your hand in the reactions. And sir, there are no hands online.
Perfect. Now, can we do a roll call? Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. Starting with Bolinas, Isaac Taylor,
Yes.
For Mill Valley, Todd Cusimano.
Yes.
For City of San Rafael, Abe Roman.
Yes.
For the County of Marin, Jason Weber.
Yes.
For Inverness, Jim Fox.
Yes.
For Kentfield, Mark Pony.
Yes.
For Marin Wood, Eric Drakeson.
Yes.
Muir Beach, Chris Gove. Did we lose him? Okay. For Novato Fire, Bill Tyler.
Yes.
For Sleepy Hollow, Dan Mahoney.
Yes.
For Southern Marin Fire, Chris Tubbs.
Yes.
For, let's see, the town of Fairfax, Heather Abrams.
Yes.
For the town of Ross, Krista Johnson.
Yes.
The town of San Anselmo, Dave Donnery. And for Stinson Beach, Jesse Perry.
Yes.
Dave, are you present with us online still?
Who's that? Dave Donnery?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I thought I said yes.
Okay, perfect. We didn't hear your vote, and I believe Chris Gove, did we get your vote? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. That looks like a unanimous vote of all here.
Thank you. Moving on to 7B, revised scope of services for evacuation, ingress, egress risk assessment. Tasks 5 and 6. Recommendation from the staff is to receive a summary of the proposed changes to the scope of services and provide feedback from staff.
Yes, and I'm going to kick this off and then pass it off to Tammy. And mostly I'll give a little bit of background. And the drafting of the RFP for the evac ingress egress risk assessment actually predates the MWPA. We started working on that as we were forming the MWPA. The original thought was that we would need to include an evacuation management platform along with the risk assessment. But as we were developing the RFP, Zonehaven came about. We were able to pull the evacuation management platform out of that RFP and subscribe to Zonehaven. And then we went down the path of having our evac ingress egress risk assessment approved. And the original scoping of it had a dynamic software built into it where we would pay to develop the software. It would actually give us allow us dynamic fine tuning of a project. Hey, if we do 100 feet versus 30 feet, this is what it's going to do. However, it was going to be very expensive to develop the new software, and we purposely put a pause between task 4 and task 5 to evaluate whether or not we should pay to develop that software. What we found is the data is so immense and so layered that we think that perhaps task 5 could be better utilized by having our member agencies be able to work with the STI, Tammy and her team to delayer that data and actually get consultation with them. Hey, this is what this data really means to you, and this is what you can really do to help. Task 6 is similar to Zonehaven coming about, and we didn't have to develop that software. Ladris AI, which we talked to you about last week, does more than just the traffic modeling. They can model the fire behavior. They can model so many other things. That will give us the dynamic tool without us having to develop the software. And we're looking at having STI partner with Ladris on this and using San Rafael as our beta test, using the San Rafael San Anselmo fuel reduction zone as that beta test area. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Tammy.
Tammy, I think you're on mute.
Here I am. Thanks, Mark. I'm just going to find my screen share. Too many windows open. Hang on one sec. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so I'm just going to go through this quickly. As Mark mentioned, we've been working with MWPA to rescope task 5 and 6, as we're calling them. And really, task 5 is split into two parts. The first part is to work with MWPA and member agencies to really use where we're at with the current conditions risk assessment, and then look at before and after risk reduction. So where we're at right now is we've done a great job modeling current conditions in terms of evacuation, vulnerability and effectiveness. And so what we want to do is look at, okay, with all the projects that are being put on the ground, shaded fuel breaks, evacuation route, fuel reductions, we want to now look at how do those projects reduce risk? And so that's what Task 5A is really about. And we'll be working with MWPA, Mark and Charlotte and Ann, to determine what metrics really align with what's in the MWPA strategic plan, goals and objectives. And so more to come on that. The second part of Task 5 is to work with Green Info Network, who's the MWPA GIS consultant that they've hired to come on and build out the GIS infrastructure. And we'll be working with them to transfer all the data from those study, but also to develop methods and protocols for maintaining and versioning all of the data. As you can imagine, as projects are implemented, the fuels change, the fuel models change, we rerun the fire behavior modeling. And so that all takes some effort to make sure that we're all using the same data sets and that those data sets are staying current. And we'll be coordinating with all the other contractors, Willow Labs, Panorama, and so forth on those. And then, we're always available to help MWPA's members, you guys, to, use the data, help with your project planning, ensure that any new data that you have, it gets integrated into the system, and also just providing technical support on navigating so we set up an online data viewer that's got a lot of GIS data layers, and we're always happy to just hop on the phone and walk you through that and explain how those data can be used for your project planning. And then Task 6, as Mark mentioned, we'll be coordinating with Ladris AI. This is actually a pretty state-of-the-art evacuation planning and real-time system that has come about just in the last couple of years. Sonoma Technology has been developing a relationship with Ladris, and so far what we're seeing is really positive. And so we'll be testing out the Ladris platform for San Rafael. And as part of that, we'll assemble a technical advisory team similar to what we did for the evacuation study, where we'll be working with staff from San Rafael Fire, law enforcement, OEM. And really the purpose of this is now to look at, okay, so we modeled current conditions, but now we want to look at, so what if scenarios? What if we do fuel reduction, 30 feet out, 50 feet out, 100 feet out from a roadway? Or, what if we do contraflow on this road? What if we designate different temporary refuge areas in certain locations? And so this is going to be more of sort of a what if scenario exercise. So should be pretty interesting. And the results will include looking at really at the end of the day, we want to look at what is the risk reduction that we're getting from all of these mitigation actions. And so with that, I don't know, Mark, if you want to add anything to that, but happy to take questions.
No, I think you nailed it. Thank you.
Any questions for staff or for Tammy? Tyler.
I have a question, Tammy. This is Bill Tyler. With regards to the home hardening efforts or zone zero work or whatever, does that get captured and updated so that when you rerun, not just the vegetation work that's being done, shaded fuel break, et cetera, but the actual hardening of the homes, is that being cataloged and updated for the models to be run?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've been working with Charlotte Jourdain and Willow Labs, Scott Farley, to figure out the right scale for the modeling that we're doing versus the modeling that's being done at the parcel scale. And I think as it relates to near roadside mitigation efforts, yes, it will be included. I don't know if that answered.
And
the
how
question.
has there been a request for that data to come in a uniformed way from agencies, since I know some assessments are done slightly different? Like how's it being captured and given?
Awesome question, which is what we're working with Green Info Network on. The DSpace, we've leveled that out, right? Using every agency with Fireside. When it comes to documenting the greater Nevada shaded fuel break versus the greater Ross Valley shaded fuel break, yes, currently the data is coming across in different ways. However, they're coming across in shape files that can be pushed into a single portal. But we're also working with Green Info Network to create a tool that all of our member agencies can consistently and in the same way report their whether it's roadside work or shaded fuel break work. We are creating that tool with Green Info Network.
Yeah.
With the idea of making it as simple as possible for our member agencies.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess my questions or thoughts around it is just incorporating the hardening components into the models, into the mapping as much as possible.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think once
That gets at the insurance too.
yeah,
right?
and I think once we finalize the work with Willow Labs and University of Colorado, that's how we can start integrating that with Tammy.
Yeah, so for example, if let's say that 10 homes in a large neighborhood end up ultimately getting that designation, wildfire prepared home, then could that get dropped in on the address? And I know that has to be updated also, but could that would tell you something about that home as an example, you know?
I believe we can. I'll leave it to Tammy. I think she agrees.
Yeah, I mean, data's data. We can do many different things with it. I think one thing that we're trying to sort of iron out right now with Willow Labs is, we don't want to duplicate work that they're doing, obviously, and they don't want to duplicate what we're going to be doing. But I think it comes down to more of a matter of scale, right? So Willow Labs is working on the parcel level, neighborhood level, looking at shaded fuel breaks. And so then we take that and we sort of expand that up to the county level. And so I guess to Mark's point, we need to work out some of those details, but yeah, if we have data available, I think it's worth, figuring out how we can present that in a way that makes sense for planning, right?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, can we get a recommendation from the staff as to what action you guys would like to be put forward for this?
Today's action is to recommend to the MWPA board for approval.
Can we get a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion. Cusimano, Mill Valley.
Bill Tyler, seconds.
And let's go out to the public.
If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the current agenda item for the revised scope of services for the evacuation ingress egress risk assessment, please raise your hand in the reactions. And for those joining us by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. And sir, there are no hands for comment.
Thank you. Can we pull the board, please?
Certainly. Starting with Bolinas, Isaac Taylor.
Yes.
With Mill Valley, Todd Cusimano.
Yes.
City of San Rafael, Abe Roman.
Yes.
County of Marin, Jason Weber.
Yes.
Inverness, Jim Fox.
Yes.
Kentfield, Mark Pomey.
Yes.
Marin Wood, Eric Drakeson.
Yes.
Muir Beach, Chris Gove. Novato Fire, Bill Tyler.
Yes.
Sleepy Hollow, Dan Mahoney.
Yes.
Southern Marin, Chris Tubbs.
Yes.
Town of Fairfax, Heather Abrams.
Yes.
Town of Ross, Krista Johnson.
Yes.
Town of San Anselmo, Dave Donnery.
Yes.
And then did we get a yes vote from Muir Beach from Chris?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. And Chair Perry?
Yes.
And it looks like a unanimous vote, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to 7C, chair, vice chair elections.
So each year we elect a chair or vice chair or continue our existing chair and vice chair for operations and ATC, and that occurs in January of each year. And so today we will take nominations for both chair and vice chair, and then we can take a roll call.
Any nominations from the board?
I'd like to nominate Chief Tyler for the chair and Todd Cusimano as vice chair.
Any other comments on those nominations? Okay. Seeing none, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
First by Chief Tubbs, second by Christy Johnson. We go out to the public for this one.
If there are any members of the public wishing to comment on the chair and vice chair elections, please indicate so in the reactions. And so there, sir, there are no hands for comment.
Thank you. Can we pull the board?
Certainly, starting with Bolinas, Isaac Taylor,
Yes.
Mill Valley, Todd Cusimano,
Yes.
City of San Rafael, Abe Roman,
Yes.
County of Marin, Jason Weber,
Yes.
Inverness, Jim Fox,
Yes.
Kenfield, Mark Pomey,
Yes.
Marin Wood, Eric Drakeson,
Yes.
Muir Beach, Chris Gove,
Yes.
Novato, Bill Tyler,
Yes.
Sleepy Hollow, Dan Mahoney,
Yes.
Southern Marin, Chris Tubbs,
Yes.
Town of Fairfax, Heather Abrams,
Yes.
Town of Ross, Krista Johnson,
Yes.
Town of San Anselmo, Dave Donnery,
Yes.
and for Stinson Beach Fire, Chair Perry.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And that's a unanimous vote of all in attendance.
Congratulations to the new leadership. Moving on to 8A, development of the 24-25 work plan draft. And we have a recommendation from staff to receive a summary of the work plan development process.
Great, thank you. That was too easy. I think next time we're going to require speeches or arm wrestling or something. Okay, well done, everyone. This will be quite brief since we are early in our process. I'll take a moment to go through kind of the overall timeline and milestones. You've seen this slide before, and I'll also send these slides out as a PDF to you all so you have a record of the slide since it includes some dates. So just to recap for a moment, so far we've already done quite a bit. We've taken some time and worked with our contractor to revamp the web portal. The web portal is the online way to submit proposals for the next work plan. That started last fall, and we went through and tried to break it and tried to mess it up in 100 different ways. And we think it's in pretty good shape and ready to go. So the web portal is now open. We also started meeting with the operations committee and ATC in December. We now have a new chair and vice chair, and for each of the committees, ATC and operations as well. Now is the time to reach out to land management agencies for any coordination. If you have proposals you think are going to overlap public lands, make sure you are talking to state parks, national parks, county parks right now, because now's the time when they can include your proposal into their future plans and budgets. And that was a part of a presentation in December at the ATC level. February, March is really go time in terms of adding proposals to the work plan portal and really thinking through the nitty-gritty details of those proposals. We're going to do our best to submit our JPA-wide proposals so that we can have those kind of rough budget numbers earlier rather than later. So we've set a deadline of March 1st for JPA-wide proposals, and that's really just to make the budgeting easier for all of you. March 15th, we'd like to see initial drafts for all of the proposals in the web portal. And then by the end of March, we'd like those proposals to be largely final. And we'll take some time and kind of QA, QC, double check language and kind of consistency across the 5 zones and check in. MWPA staff will be checking in with member agency staff to kind of go through and answer questions and see if there are any items that weren't answered in the portal that need some additional language, et cetera. Operations committee is really going to be digging into the proposals in April, March as well, but I think really April. And that's really when we start digging into, do you have any concerns about any of the proposals submitted, thoughts about budget, how to balance competing needs, et cetera. So we'll likely need to create some ad hoc subcommittees to dig into details that come up. So that should take place probably in March for this group. And the ATC will have some ad hoc subcommittees as well. We'll probably set those up a little earlier, maybe February. We'll be vetting all of our proposals as usual publicly in the ATC meetings and operations committee meetings, really to give you a preview of what these proposals are, but also to allow the public to really see what we're doing. In the portal, once we, have proposals developed enough to make public, we flip a switch in the portal and make them visible online. So I'll show you a little bit about where to access that. May 2nd is the operations committee meeting where I'm hoping that we can take our draft work plan and budget and recommend it to the board for approval. We will be going to the board May 16th for approval of the work plan and budget. And that's a JPA language requirement to make sure we do that each year by that time, by May. So here on our web page, our home page, on the upper left-hand corner, it says JPA portal, and that's where you can go to view the web portal. Generally, I think it's going to be your staff submitting proposals and really logging in and getting into the weeds there. No pun intended. But that's a place to view proposals as well for the public. So if you click on JPA portal, you can not only log into the portal, but you can also, as a member of the public, once those proposals are kind of published on the website, that's where you would go to find them. So we'll want to submit all core, local, and DSpace projects and proposals, anything that needs a line item in the budget. This is where, if you click on JPA portal, this is where it takes you. So on the upper right, you'll see that login area. That's where staff can log in for member agencies and add proposals. And then the public can choose work plan year and then view all the proposals that are in the work plan and the draft proposals that are proposed for this next 24-25 year. That's a really great tool to ensure transparency and make sure the public knows what we're doing. And I think that's it for me. Happy to answer any questions. And just as a reminder, I'll send the slides out as a PDF so you have that slide with the dates and the general timelines.
Any questions or comments from Marianne? Okay, seeing none, can we go out to the public? Martina, can we go out to the public? Sorry.
If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the current agenda item, please raise your hand in reactions. And for those joining us by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. And sir, there are no hands for comment.
Thank you. Moving on to 9A, any report from the Citizens Oversight Committee?
The Citizens Oversight Committee is here in attendance, but they don't have a report today for the Operations Committee.
Pardon? And then moving on to 9B, Advisory Technical Committee report.
I'll do that and I'll keep it brief. The Advisory Technical Committee met yesterday for January and had a similar agenda, slightly different. The ATC also, just as this committee tackled last year in May, the ATC tackled some bylaw language cleanup, particularly around trying to schedule meetings. And so the ATC needed to meet twice a year, and any changes to that was supposed to be approved by the board. And the ATC's workload is much bigger than 2 meetings a year. So we changed that language in that meeting. And also started just kind of discussing the direction of the grant program and the adding of the direct assistance component to that program. Largely, though, the agenda was very similar. And so we expect, and will probably remain so for the next month or so. And then we'll really be digging into proposals and the details of those proposals in the next couple of months here. So that's it for the ATC.
Thank you. Is there any leadership change?
Yes, Ruben Martin is going to continue as chair. Thanks for that. I forgot to mention that. Ruben Martin has generously volunteered to continue as chair, and then as vice chair, Lynn Osgood stepped down and Fred Hilliard stepped into that position. So we're looking forward to a good season ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Item 10, committee members' request for future agenda items. Seeing none. Actually, should we go to public comment for 9C real quick? Do we need to? Sorry, 9B.
Committee reports?
Okay. Then fine, we can move right on to item 11, which is adjournment. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Thank you. First by Weber, second by Chief Pomey. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, I'm Jim Fox.
Yes, hello.
Hi, I'm showing a coastal planning meeting popping up on my calendar. Is that happening at noon or not?
Let's check in. Let's check in offline
Okay.
off this meeting, and I'll give you the update.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.